Nigeria's agriculture sector is perhaps the most prosperous economic sector in the country. The sector is currently the largest employer of labor, providing a means of livelihood to over 23 million Nigerians. At the same time, it is the largest single contributor to the country's GDP, contributing over $103 million to Nigeria's GDP in 2020 alone, despite the estimated loss of about $1.6 billion during the pandemic.
The agricultural sector in Nigeria is largely unstructured, but that also means there's a lot of opportunities in that sector.
The agricultural sector in Nigeria is unfortunately very disorganized. Although the government seems to be trying with ad hoc policies to ban imports of products that we should be farming locally, there doesn't seem to be much cohesion and education to the farmers for the quality of the output of the products needed for manufacturing.
Well, Nigeria is naturally endowed for agricultural excellence, and as a country, we should be doing much better than we are today. While we have majority of our population engaged in the agriculture sector, which contributes over 20% of our GDP, we still struggle with many inefficiencies in the sector. The first one is that most of our farmers are relatively unproductive when compared to counterparts in Asia or the Americas. The Nigerian farmer produces about 1/3 of what their counterparts produce. And this is linked to challenges around accessing inputs that are great quality, such as improved seeds, fertilizer, irrigation to ensure year-round cultivation, access to last-mile distribution of all sorts of inputs, challenges around accessing extension services, which we still have one extension worker to 9,000 farmers, where the FAO says 1 to 400 farmers. So we have a lot of challenges around farmer productivity.
Nigerian agricultural sector has great opportunity, but we need to pay special attention to it if we want to see the impact and want to see it grow and want to see economic development driven by agriculture.
While the narrative is being slowly rewritten, these opportunities are not being fully optimized as primitive footprints continue to chart the course of agricultural activities in the country.
Agriculture needs a marketing makeover. Really, people think of agriculture and they think of the old man in a field, dusty, dirty. But actually, agriculture is so much more than that. And you can make money from this business. So I think the first thing that needs to be done is a marketing revamp of the entire sector, showing young people that you can make money from this business.
The sector currently, based on how we describe it in the research, exists within what we call a time warp. A time warp because the sector simultaneously exists in three times: the past, and the present, and also in the future. It exists in the past because a larger part of how we practice agriculture is very traditional, and so it comes with brick and mortar ways of doing things. And then coming to the present, that is where now we can start talking about the trends, because the trends, present both an opportunity but also a challenge.
As population growth coincides with rising urbanization, the demand for agricultural products is said to be expanding with consumer expenditure. Although this presents an opportunity to expand revenue, the burning question remains: does Nigeria currently have the local capacity to produce enough food for the growing population?
There's an increasing, youth population growing.
Aside increasing food demands, urbanization is also shaping food consumption patterns and presenting employment and entrepreneurship opportunities in agriculture value chains. We are also learning of an increasing demand for homegrown fruits and vegetables due to the growing trend of people wanting to live a healthy lifestyle.
Food is medicine. We're seeing a lot of interest, not just in Nigeria, but globally, around healthy foods, superfoods, and plant-based diets. substitutes for some of the more unhealthy practices when it comes to eating. And that's also a very positive trend, global trend.
The second trend in the sector that I would describe is the fourth industrial revolution, and what we call the fourth agricultural revolution. Technology is shaping the way that that work is done and processes have been applied globally. And COVID, which is another important trend, has moved us, has forced us into that digital age. And so when we talk about a future of an Agric revolution that will be shaped by technology, I feel like COVID has moved us into that space already. So it presents an opportunity for us to now begin to adopt technology and begin to innovate within the value chains. And this can in itself, begin to produce opportunities for us to not only increase food production, but also create jobs for young people and even make it more attractive to this cohort.
Youth-driven agtech agencies are attracting social capital to develop strong, globally competitive structures that can unearth emerging opportunities within the sector.
More youths are in the sector as compared with 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years ago. This is because agriculture is what we now term attractive. There's a lot of leverage on technology, and who doesn't love toys? So there are a lot of what we call agricultural toys, the drones, the driverless tractors that are being used by youths in agriculture. So it makes it simplified, less tedious, less hazardous. People are no longer exposed to chemical the way when it comes to spraying crops. So there are a lot of improvement. Women who would naturally not want to till the soil for a long time because of childbearing purpose and also health issues, they are now vested in agriculture because they can farm using hydroponics technology. People can do aquaponics and also feed the country without getting into laborious work.
I spoke about digitization and technology driving the sector, and a lot of youth coming into the agric sector, doing a lot of innovations. It shortens the processes. It makes a lot of things better. We are into finance, and we finance a lot of people. We have products, in fact, targeted at youth in agriculture. Because of their knowledge in technology, they were able to devise a mechanism that will shorten the process of palm kernel oil, shelling it and knotting it and then opening it and then processing it into oil with the use of technology.
Technology has always been an enabler. Technology has helped increase the yields, increase the level of production, and most importantly for me, it really helped in encouraging more youth to participate at different parts along the food value chain.
You see companies like Farm Crowdy, you see companies like my own Fresh Strike Nigeria that embrace technology and use technology to be able to give itself an advantage. You'll see a lot of startups driving the research and development in that space. You see a lot of partnerships between startups and research institutions to be able to commercialize some of the technologies that are being developed. And I think that's where you start to get the sweet spot.
The most exciting trend is youth engagement in the sector, and these youth leveraging ag tech and digital innovation tools. That makes me really excited. They're leveraging data, technology, innovation to leapfrog and to address many of the challenges I cited earlier.
The other trends shaping the sector is, insecurity and climate change. Climate change and insecurity on its own is a threat to food security in the country. You see the trends in the north, the land in the north is becoming arid, and a lot of herders are moving southwards looking for grazing land. And this is occasioned by climate change. And so it now, helps. So it requires us to now begin to rethink about our agricultural practices.
We talk about climate change, and it is real.
Yes.
Even though the impact of climate change is insidious, we don't notice it instantly. But the reality of it is that the impact is beginning to be felt now. Further up north, statistics have shown that the Sahara Desert is encroaching into Nigeria by 1.5 kilometers annually. And what are we doing about it? Therefore, you find out that communities communities are continuously shifting down south. Even the hardest farmers' clashes that have so intensified now is basically as a result of climate change.
Although several federal government policies have emerged to accelerate and transform food production, there are questions around the extent to which policies are negotiating and advancing the emerging innovations and technology within the sector.
I don't want to discredit the output of research that have been developed over years, but the level of adoption is still very low. It's still slow, it's low. And we want to see that people are aware that these technologies exist in research institutes. We are doing our best to see that we increase or improve the extension methodology to create more awareness that there are certain ways, improved ways to produce food in the country. At the same time, there are also simple mechanized tools that are being developed within the institute in the agricultural mechanization program research program area, so that these tools can be adopted by farmers to be able to enhance their productivity.
Investment in research and development must be improved. Knowledge drives business globally, and ideas are actually in the business. So you find out that there is an entry into the agricultural space from from all over the world. A lot of multinational companies have come in, and you can see that once they come in, they come with knowledge, and once they bring knowledge into the sector, it's a kind of leapfrog the sector, because knowledge brings best practices, and best practices bring quality and increase productivity.
A lot of good is being done by the government, private sector, and international organizations to improve productivity in agriculture and to reduce unemployment. Take, for example, us as Jobberman. We're a private business, and our core business is to place job seekers into jobs. We are in a partnership with MasterCard Foundation to focus on the agriculture, digital, and creative sectors to ensure that young people can access the opportunities across all these sectors. The reason that we're able to do this is through this collaboration that we are having with MasterCard and also with the Nigerian government and with many private agricultural businesses in Nigeria. So I think really the first thing that can be done in order to reduce unemployment in the sector is greater collaboration. People need to know who are the agricultural companies that are hiring, and they need to know, okay, where is the talent that actually have the skills, who can do these jobs in this agricultural company. And then governments, of course, have a strong role to play. Policy makers can enable universities, training and vocational colleges prioritize the skills needed for agriculture. So really it's a teamwork. All three actors need to work closer together.
As we contemplate the future of the agriculture sector, our recent study on agriculture examines the employment potential of the sector in terms of how it can further contribute to employment. 2019 estimates from PwC indicates that Nigeria's agriculture sector currently employs about 23 million people. And based on our analysis, in the next 5 years, the agriculture sector has the potential to create an additional 4.5 million jobs across 5 subsectors, including crops, livestock, fishery, forestry, and horticulture.
Yeah, so based on the 5 subsectors that we looked at, in crop production, we found skills gap in soil management, and farm produce packaging. In livestock and aquaculture, we found skills gap in breeding techniques and animal nutrition. In horticulture and forestry, there's a skills gap in ornamental horticulture as well as wildlife administration. In equipment and machine operations, there are gaps in equipment techniques as well as farm equipment operation. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, we try to understand or get the perspective of employers within the agricultural space to tell us, where are in what areas is there demand for skills. So the top 10 is in animal nutrition, and the scale of demand is as high as 58%. Farm equipment operations 41%. Soil management 36%. Product management is 25%. Project management is 13%, botany is 14%, agro-processing 18%. So these are some of the areas where there is, high demand for talent within the sector.
Emerging insights from our study also reflect a growth narrative within the agriculture sector, especially in terms of employment opportunities. About 71% of employers say that rapid expansion and commencement of new projects are major factors driving hiring trends in the agriculture sector. Recruitment is not limited or dictated by time. Rather, employers are prone to hiring as the need arises.
Yes, I think one other key finding is in terms of soft skills. Now, so employers are telling us that they are not only just paying attention to hard skills or technical skills, they are also paying attention to soft skills, communication skills, innovativeness, emotional intelligence, problem solving. And you see, this is important because when we talk about the world of work or the future of work, there's a tendency to think that the agricultural sector will not be a part of this, this future of work, right? But essentially, what we found is that the Agric sector is going to be a huge part of this because of the fourth agricultural revolution that is already emerging. It could be that we could say that Nigeria is still, playing a backseat role when it comes to that. But gradually, COVID has come and has forced us to move into that digital world, right? The extent to which we will go digital and technological is still debatable, right? But that the requirements in that future of work also include soft skills. And so if banking or if the digital sector or the creative sector is requiring certain soft skills, I think these are transferable skills that will still be meaningful in the agri sector as well.
From our own experience, in places where, especially with crop production, we've seen that there are more men involved, but we also had communities where the entire crop production was done by women, and they did very well. Interestingly, our first farmer at Farm Crowdy was a woman, and she delivered very well. Within us as an organization, we've come to a place where we have more women on the management team now. So we believe the women should be encouraged, irrespective of what part of the value chain they operate at within the food value chain.
We're getting extension workers that are female going to rural areas. We're using the mobile phone and the radio. Well, the mobile phone with some challenges, to provide training, to provide information, to provide extension services to the women at their locations.
I think, as mentioned before, the government definitely needs to provide the tools, the machinery, the education, as well as subsidize it and work with the farmers in order to give them the tools to make it better and safer, and invest in security so that there isn't that, those huge losses. The private sector, they should look for partners, invest in local farmers, almost in a new systematic merge together with local farmers in a way that they co-own together. We don't have half the expertise or experience of Nigerian farming as the farmer would. But there is also education and expertise that we can bring from similar countries that we can work together, and that's how we can build together, you know, lots of mergers.
Policies that are formulated by governments are not in line with the current market situation, and then the private sector begin to grumble. It is no longer business as usual. We cannot sit back, the private sector cannot sit back and expect the government to drive policies that affect them. The private sector needs to meet with the government, and we need to have everyone on the table to say, this is what we need, and the policies need to suit what we need as the private sector.
I believe the first thing is to encourage the youth in agri space generally, because technology is just an enabler, right? So once you understand the players, you understand what service and value they require, then the next question is, how can I use technology to make it more efficient? So the first step will be to encourage participation, and I trust the youth will always think of a better way to making things easy for the players. And this also will definitely address climatic changes, which is important now. Participation will bring about innovation.
You know, so it's very, very important for us that security is there. It's very, very important for us that we engage with private sector, but it's also very important for us that as governments, we hold private sector accountable to make sure that they are not taking livelihoods away from smallholder farmers, but that they are creating models that are inclusive so that smallholder farmers also can be carried along as well.
So a couple of things that we need to do urgently. The first one, as I mentioned, is that we need to equip our young people with the skills and tools to be entrepreneurs and to be employees in this sector. That means we have to revamp our curriculum at the federal level, at the state level, make it practical, offer internships and scholarships to our young people, and showcase positive role models. The second is we need an enabling policy environment. We need the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to partner with the Central Bank, the Ministry of Trade and Investment, the Ministry of Finance, to ensure that we have cohesive policies, especially for our growth sectors. Rice, yam, cassava, maize, tomato, poultry, dairy. These are priority sectors. You can't do everything for every sector, but these are sectors that Nigeria thrives in, and these are sectors that are critical, and we need to have cohesive policies across the board.
Lastly, it's important to improve working conditions for women by enhancing women's land ownership rights, as they currently have only about 14% land ownership rights, to aid decision-making and maximize value additions for women. It's also going to be very important to formalize pay structure in agricultural production to limit discriminatory payment system in the sector.